The Houston Texans feel like the second best team in the AFC to me right now.
My only thing is I like to see what kind of goes on the second year under a
Mm.
new regime. I mean, you got to keep in mind this is a whole new coaching staff, essentially a whole new team from the Texans.
Welcome back to the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube. Welcome back to Swivel Chair Sports. I'm your host, Zach Zuckerberg Merkel, here with the host today, Aaron. Go and say hi, Aaron.
If you like our content, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and let us know what you think.
But other than that, let's go ahead and get into it. So, in this video, we'll be taking a look at just another piece of a crumbling kingdom. The Buffalo Bills have traded away number one receiver Stefon Diggs to AFC rival, kind of, in the Houston Texans. Not only did they trade Stefon Diggs, they're also stuck having to pay $31 million to him this year due to the signing bonus that they gave him at the beginning of this contract he's currently on. And then, as far as the haul they got back for him, I think it's safe to say pretty unremarkable. Where they got a second round pick for the 2025 NFL draft, so not even this offseason, not even this upcoming draft with all of the talent from the first through probably fourth rounds. Nope, they got a second round pick for 2025. And in order to get that, they also had to trade away a sixth this year and a seventh for next year. So I think it's safe to say Buffalo is on the losing end of this trade. Aaron, what are kind of your thoughts on the haul Buffalo got back for Stefon Diggs?
Yeah, it's tough. Just him for a second at this point in his career, that seems fair. But just the real kick in the nuts is having to give away the sixth and seventh this year. I mean, you know what? Fine, if the best you can get is getting a second next year, but having to give away two late round picks too, that's just a icing on top of the cake.
Yeah, yeah, pretty brutal. And I mean they're probably going to try to get an immediate replacement in the draft this year, but they're going to have to use their own pick. They're not even going to get to use the pick that they got for Stefon Diggs to get his replacement. So that's got to kind of hurt, along with also having to pay him over $30 million to not be on your team. Pretty rough, to say the least. All I could say is it's a good thing y'all signed Curtis Samuel, because otherwise Josh Allen's thrown to a bunch of fans out there. Might as well bring in the cast of Invincible and have Mark Wahlberg line up wide, because my goodness gracious, are they hurting for wide receiver talent now? Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Matt Collins from the Atlanta Falcons, whose career hasn't exactly panned out how he would have liked. Luckily, they've got two great tight ends in Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, but surely the Bills have got to be looking at getting a replacement at the wide receiver position this draft, right, Aaron?
I don't know. Quit calling me Shirley. Um, yeah, that's kind of what I would expect them to go with in the first round, which sucks because there are definitely
There,
other
yeah,
positions that they could address with that pick, specifically probably secondary,
yeah. I was about to say DBs,
linebacker maybe,
offensive line,
uh,
even.
offensive line even, yeah. Um, but it almost feels like they have to go receiver now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If they don't go receiver in the draft, I would expect them to look at trying to trade for. I know there's been rumors about maybe Brandon Ayuk. I think that's a possibility for sure, but I'd imagine you'd have to give up some draft capital to get him in the door. Um, I also think I heard something about, oh, who was the other receiver? Oh, T. Higgins from Cincinnati, but I also feel like it'd be weird for the Bengals to trade their second best receiver to another AFC contender. Like I think the two teams that they wouldn't trade T Higgins to would be the Bills and the Chiefs. Maybe the Baltimore Ravens. They probably don't want to trade him there either. But outside of those three teams, T Higgins could probably go anywhere else. So definitely puts the Bills in a tough spot. However, on the other end of the spectrum, you got the Houston Texans, who, after already improving the team with adding Joe Mixon at running back and Daniil Hunter at edge this offseason, now they bring in all pro wide receiver Stefon Diggs to go along with two Pro Bowl receivers in Tank Dell and Nico Collins, where you have quite possibly the second or third best quarterback in the AFC throw into those guys. What are your expectations for the Texans this next season now that they've added Stefon Diggs?
They're scary. That's a scary team. I mean, I think we all know kind of what I thought about the Texans last year and CJ Stroud coming out of the draft. Um, I don't think anybody really expected them to have the season that they had,
No, not with a rookie head coach and rookie quarterback.
but it feels like this season they're going all in. They're trying
Already,
to win
yeah.
now,
Smart.
which with the
Smart.
young talent they have, the CJ Stroud on his rookie contract,
Mm-hmm.
that's a smart move
Yep.
to just kind of go all out, especially with the teams that they have to compete with in the AFC. But they are a scary looking team.
Yeah, I'd say this. In my opinion, it vaults them up to the second best team in the AFC, right behind Kansas City. Um, I think they're a more complete team than the Baltimore Ravens. The Bills have crumbled. Joe Burrow can't stay healthy. I don't know what the hell's happening with Trevor Lawrence. Justin Herbert just got a new head coach. So, I mean, the Houston Texans feel like the second best team in the AFC to me right now. I think you could argue they may have been the second best team for a large portion of the year last season, with the Chiefs struggling for a large portion of the season and then the Bills getting off to a rough start. You could argue the Texans were right up there with the Ravens for a large portion of the season. No.
Mm, no, I don't. I don't think you can put them up there with the Ravens.
What?
I mean, they were very good, but the Ravens defense was on a completely other level.
Sure. No, and I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying. I mean, the Texans' defense was no slouch though either, and they were young
Oh,
too.
I'm not saying they were. They had a very
Yeah.
shockingly good defense, especially for first year head coach D'Amico Ryans. Um, but that being said, that Ravens defense
It
were some
was good.
dogs.
No, it was
They
really
were some
good. I'm not.
dogs.
I don't want to take anything away from the Ravens, but I think you could argue the Texans as an overall team was probably second best behind the Ravens for a large portion of the season in the AFC. Because like the other teams that ended up on top, the Chiefs were down bad for a bit. The Bills got off to a really rough start. The Bengals were a roller coaster for the first half of the season, and then Burrow got hurt. Jaguars weren't good really at all. So I mean, kind of maybe the Browns. The Browns were good for a while.
I'd say they're up there in the mix with like the, like 3-4 area competing with the Ravens and the Bills, kind of like and the Chiefs, obviously. Those they all kind of shuffled
Sure.
um that top kind of four
Yeah.
spot. Um, I don't know that you could ever really definitively say that they were top two because
I,
I
I don't
feel
know if
like
you could definitively say that, but I'd say you could argue it. That's I guess what I'm
I think
saying.
one was clearly the Ravens all
Yeah.
season,
No, for sure. Yeah.
and then two was probably Chiefs early, and then swapped to Bills in the second half of the season. The Texans got hot late in the season and kind of did their thing there. But yeah, I would say they were probably in the mix for like that 3 to 4 kind of region.
And you don't think that adding Stephon Diggs, since it not only helps them, it takes away from the Bills, who's probably right there in that argument with them. Um, The Bengals, I think, is kind of the one team you could argue would be between the Texans and the number 3 team in the AFC, because number 1 and 2 is probably definitely Baltimore and Kansas City. And I think whoever's 3, you could argue with Baltimore just because of Baltimore's playoff woes the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. I think the Texans are far and ahead better than the Bills right now after this trade specifically. I think the Bills have kind of decided to punt on the season. We kind of discussed that before, but the Bills don't seem like they're in it for this year unless they get a rookie wide receiver that kind of shocks them. But the defense is going to be okay because McDermott is a good defensive head coach. But that secondary is really, really thin. The offense is going to be in their first full year with Joe Brady, which could go either way. They didn't pass the ball a lot with Joe Brady as the OC, so that's kind of interesting to see. Is there going to be more of a run first kind of offense? Maybe like a quarterback option style offense. And if they do run something like that, similar to like maybe a Cam Newton down in Carolina during those days, is Josh Allen going to be able to hold up against all that, you know, contact on a consistent basis like that? So that's kind of why I feel like the Texans are far and away better than the Bills after this trade. But what are your thoughts?
My only thing is I like to see what kind of goes on the second year under a
Mm,
new regime. I mean, you got to keep in mind this is a whole new coaching staff, essentially a whole new team from the Texans. New quarterback, bunch of young talented receivers that they got. Um, so this is, teams didn't really know what to expect when playing them until like later in the season. Now this you're going to have a full off season to prepare, especially for their conference opponents. Um, so I like to see kind of what they do, how they adjust this coming season before I for sure anoint them like a number 2 overall team. Do I think they'll be top 5 in the AFC? 100%.
oh yeah, I don't
100%.
think that's an
They're
argument.
going to be
Yeah,
a
I don't think there's
really
any
good
way.
team next year.
Yeah,
It's just whether or not they're going to be kind of on the same level based off of the defensive adjustments they see.
yeah,
And going back to kind of your analysis on what the Bills might do, I think Josh Allen has kind of proven, you know, he can take a little bit of punishment, but he's also smart. He kind of does what Mahomes does. He takes the hits when he needs to, especially in the playoffs, and then he gets out of bounds when it's not necessarily a crucial third down run or something like that. So if they incorporate the run, I'm sure they'll be smart about it because they know he's their franchise guy. But I don't think that really changes the fact that he's kind of a pass first, run in
right.
emergencies
No,
quarterback.
yeah, no, and I don't think Cam Newton was a run first quarterback either. To be fair, though, I think he definitely was more prone to running earlier than maybe Josh Allen is, flooding the pocket a little earlier than maybe Josh Allen is. But um, discussion for another day, I suppose. Uh, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see which one of these two teams come out on top. The argument could be made that Stefon Diggs is over the hill. So maybe the Texans bought late.
I mean, with that though, it's not like they're bringing him in to be the number 1 overall. I mean, they've got
No.
Nico Collins and Tank Dell, so
Yeah.
he's just another um, weapon to add into the arsenal that'll be good to space the field, and it'll be a nightmare for defenses.
Yeah, having to guard all three of those guys, and then also Dalton Schultz out of the tight end spot is not going to be fun for opposing defenses. And then not to mention Joe Mixon out of the backfield, who's no slouch catching the football either. So it'll be a fun team to watch. I'm really excited to see what the Texans can do. As a Chiefs fan, I'm terrified. But unless you got anything else, I think that'll do it for this episode of the most unprofessional sports channel on YouTube, Swivel Chair Sports. I've been your host, Zach Zuckerberg Burkle, here with the ghost today, Aaron. Go and see Bayern.
Uh,
All right, please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Other than that, deuces.